Hi, everybody. My name is Tommy Cuevas, and I'm welcoming you to Aspire 23 and our demo on optimizing Microsoft M365 time-saving tips and tricks for a smarter workplace. I'm joined here with John. John, go ahead and do your magic and go ahead and explain who you are and what you do.
Hey, thanks, Tommy, and welcome everyone to Aspire 23. I've been here with Velosio and its predecessors for about 10 years. If you've worked with us on Microsoft Teams or Microsoft Teams voice projects, then you may already know me. If not, I'll be happy to get to know you. Also support our cloud teams with cloud onboarding and operations support. And I live in Greenville, South Carolina with my wife and two daughters, age 4 and 7 months.
And I'm Thomas Cuevas, also known as Tommy Cuevas around the office. I have over 20 years, ooh, that sounds rough, of Microsoft experience. I am the SharePoint SME here at Velosio. I've also done IT business consulting, Microsoft licensing, right sizing, and security. I am a stepdad of two amazing kids. I live in the horse capital of the world, Ocala, Florida. And then I am also a published photographer, so I do photography and videography on the side. So
Very cool. Thank you, Tommy. First, we're going to kind of discuss Microsoft Teams. I'm sure you all have become very familiar with Teams, especially over the last few years with the shift to a hybrid work environment and Teams becoming an ever expanding platform for collaboration. Hopefully, these tips will show you some new ways to use Teams, some ways to use Teams more efficiently, and kind of expand your view of what it can do to help streamline your workflow. The first and one of my favorite things is team shortcuts. So if you've never used these, this might be a great time to take a screenshot. You might not know that some of the similar actions you do for keyboard shortcuts can also be useful inside of Teams for things like instantly opening the search bar, muting yourself really quickly if you can't quite find that mute button, turning your camera on and off, as well as answering and declining calls. So if you haven't used those shortcuts before, definitely make use of those. We'll be happy to help train your users on some more efficient ways to use Teams. But once you become a Teams power user, hopefully some of these will become second nature, the way that Control C or Control Z probably are for you in your other uses. Similar to that, Teams has a whole command bar up at the top. That top bar is not just for search. There's plenty of handy commands inside of Teams you can do. If you were to go into the top bar of your Teams and press that slash, you'd see a list of some of the more common ones. So if you want to set yourself to do not disturb instead of having to locate your profile picture and select the status you want, you can just click slash and type DND and instantly set yourself to do not disturb, or slash and call, and it'll start a call for someone. So if you're someone who's a programmer, a bit familiar with code, or just likes to do things a bit more quickly inside of Teams without having to go the mouse route, take a look at that slash command inside of your Teams bar and see if those shortcuts can save you a bit of time as you spend your day in Microsoft Teams. Also, and this is where Tommy can speak a bit to the interplay between Teams and SharePoint. Teams is a great platform for live document collaboration. So if you've ever done co-authoring inside of Google Docs or a similar platform, you might not know that you can do something the same, if not better, inside of Microsoft Teams. So if you go to that Files button inside of Teams, you'll see a list of your recent files, and you can use that to collaborate live with your teammates inside of Word documents, Excel spreadsheets, PowerPoint presentations, OneNotes, and all sorts of different types of documents. So the main goal of this is to eliminate the need to send an email with multiple versions of documents and really clutter up your inbox when you could just be working on it live, seeing the changes that your teammates are making, and access all those documents without having to switch applications outside of Microsoft Teams. You can also change where those documents open. If you like working inside of Teams, you can change that default location to Teams, or the desktop Office app that you're more familiar with, or the web version of the Office app if you're a Business Basic license user, for example. And go ahead, Tommy. Sorry to cut you off.
Oh yeah, no. Sorry. Actually, it's wonderful that you brought this up because I actually just did this with somebody that I'm working on the design component of their SharePoint site with their HR department and their IT department. And they were originally talking about collaborating via Dropbox instead of OneDrive and Teams. And very easily, I showed them how to create a chat between the team. I showed them how to go ahead and share files, so their HR files that they're going to be uploading into their SharePoint. I even embedded the SharePoint site directly into their chat. This way, in real time, talking to each other, chatting, and sharing files, they're going to be able to work on that site together. So this is a perfect way to really get the most out of Teams, especially when you're collaborating on documents, websites, pretty much anything.
Absolutely. Yeah. And even though it sounds so simple when we discuss it, if you step back and think about the kind of the 20th century way that you worked on documents on your computer, it was opening up your word processor, making a change, saving it to your desktop or a file share or something like that, emailing it, asking someone if they like the changes, and so on. It's very tedious, creates a lot of clutter. But just to zoom out and think about what you can do inside of Teams as a front end for SharePoint, you can work on the document, save the document, collaborate on the document, and ask for feedback all within one application, making use of the Teams chat or the comment and editing functions inside of the document itself. So if that seems kind of mind blowing or new, feel free to give that a try and don't hesitate to ask us if you need help. But hopefully, this helps eliminate some inbox clutter, some multiple document versions that can get a bit confusing, and help you get a bit more out of the Microsoft Teams platform that you already own. Uh, as it pertains to saving time inside of Teams, if you're like us, you probably have multiple teams and channels. If you've been a long time Teams user, maybe quite a bit of clutter over on that left sidebar inside of Teams. You might find that you really only use certain channels or teams in a given week. So if you want those to go to the top, you can pin them, just like pinning your most popular groups or something on Facebook. If you click that ellipse over there on the left, you'll see an option to pin and keep that right up there at the top so that even if there hasn't been a lot of action in that team or channel for a while, if you know that there are important conversations or files there and you want to keep that top of mind, go over to that channel or team inside of Teams, just click that ellipse and you can pin that and keep that top of sidebar and top of mind for you. And mentions, we all know about the @mention function from other social media platforms. But if you're trying to get your team members' attention inside of a team's channel or just general chat, you find they're not that responsive and you'd like them to get a bit more of a useful notification, just type that symbol. It works the same way if you're trying to notify someone on Facebook or Twitter, Teams. If you click that you can just start typing their name afterwards, and they'll get a little notification that they've been mentioned, and they'll have a quick way to get to what you're trying to notify them about rather than just hoping they see, hey you, and you hoping that they read that chat. So please use that mentions function, especially if you're in a larger group chat and you want a certain person to respond. For example, if you just say, hey, can someone take this support ticket? People might not quite be sure if that pertains to them or if that's just a general question, but if you were to use the mention function and call out your engineer or teammate or AP person, they'll know, okay, this chat's for me. I need to read this and take action. So that's definitely one of our most commonly used Teams functions here at Velosio
It,
internally.
it's such a cool feature that they now have it in Outlook as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Great way to tag someone in email too. It's a M365 wide feature that is long overdue in my opinion.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And this the availability status again seems simple, but there's a couple of cool tricks to this and why it's very important. So if you've never changed this, you might think that the only status available to you inside of Teams is available and offline, but Teams is smart enough to both read your Outlook calendar and change you to busy or in a meeting when your calendar is booked, to limit your notifications, and also set you to do not disturb if you're presenting. So just some of those things that Teams does in the background that you're not aware of that are saving you time are great. But if you're interested or are already using Teams as your phone system, then this availability status is even more useful. So Teams phone system is smart enough to not transfer calls to you if you're part of a call queue group if your status is something other than available. So if your company is using or is considering using Teams phone, this is by far one of the most loved features. So if you, for example, were to have a customer service department and want to make sure that a customer calling in gets routed to an agent who's actually available, setting the team status to available lets your team's phone system know that you're able to take a call and will route it to someone else if your status is something different. Also, if you are supposed to be away from the office, but you still want to be able to log into Teams and maybe check your messages, we've all been guilty of that. You can manually change your status to appear away or appear offline so folks don't ping you while you're supposed to be out, but you can still remain signed into Teams if you just needed to check something really quick. It can be useful to manually change your status for something like that as well. But fortunately, even if you were to never touch this, Teams is going to keep you as available until it sees something on your calendar to block you off or until you choose to sign out. You can also reset your status to take it back to the default and set a duration for it if you know you're only going to want to be on Do Not Disturb for the next hour, for example. So definitely a nice little commonly used feature of Teams. Notifications, we all sometimes feel like we're drowning in them with all the different streams and all the different platforms we're on. Sometimes they get to be a bit much. If you find that you're getting too many notifications or pings inside of Teams and you want to kind of whittle that down to only what's important, you can, for your individual teams and channels that you're a member of, say you want to get all activity or only mentions, like we talked about just a few minutes ago, or replies, or custom settings. And that's again for channel notifications or general notifications. You can change your settings for chat notifications, calls, keeping track of people who are notified or sorry, are added to or removed from teams and so on. So calls is one that you'll probably want to change to set up a voicemail or call transfer to your cell phone. That's a useful way to customize those notifications so folks know that you're not there and that you'll be able to respond to their voicemail, which Teams will also send you. But if you just find that Teams notifications are getting to be so plentiful that they're hardly even useful, then please just click that settings icon inside of Teams, go to notifications, and change those to suit your preferences.
What one of my favorite parts about that is the quiet hours, because I'm very big about when I'm with my kids. I like to be with my kids. I set up my quiet hours for my weekends. It allows for important messages to get in, but all the random messages that you may get after hours on weekends, you can still go ahead and look at those messages, but it's not going to notify you during those times. And that's a lifesaver, especially when spending time with the kids.
Yeah, that's a great call out, Tommy. You can set those quiet hours to be something like anything outside of 9 to 5, and then don't bug me on the weekends is a pretty common setting. But yeah, if you have not set your quiet hours, please do so. It's a benefit for teams and also puts a block on your Outlook calendar so people know not to schedule you for those late nights or weekend hours. And so, again, that's just another instance of M365 working pretty seamlessly to affect your status, notifications, and availability both on Outlook and Microsoft Teams. And speaking of that continuity, a lot of people are not aware that the Teams mobile app has been greatly improved and also provides a very similar experience to what you're getting on your desktop. If you're only using Teams as the desktop app, or heaven forbid, only as a browser page, just be aware that all versions of Microsoft 365 licensing, even if you're on Business Basic, will give you access to that Teams desktop application. So even if you're on one of those licenses that only gives you the web version of Office, you can still use the Teams desktop app, which is great, and the app on the mobile platform. So iPad, iOS, Android, Windows Phone, and apparently there's even a Apple CarPlay or an Apple car integration for Microsoft Teams. Yeah, I've started to see that. So you can join Teams meetings with a click from your car if you're lucky enough to have a more modern vehicle than my old Subaru, for example. So
I have gotten on Teams meetings while sitting in car line to pick up the kids from school. So yes,
yeah,
it works for Android Auto and Apple CarPlay.
Yeah, exactly. So pretty cool. Again, if you're only using it on the desktop, we're all on the go so much, and if you need to hop on that call, especially if it's something that's kind of an audio only medium for you, there's no reason not to send that through your Bluetooth system. So the mobile app also works great with Teams Phone for incoming call queue transfers. You can get, those customer service or accounting or press one for sales transfers from your Teams phone system. Works great on the mobile app. You can still get access to your Teams chat, your teams themselves, the channels, those file collaborations we talked about. You can open the files on your mobile device and essentially just keep folks connected when they're away from their desktop. So very, very useful functionality of Teams is a great mobile app that essentially provides a one-to-one experience no matter what hardware platform you're on. And as Teams has grown and become adopted by more and more organizations, I think we're in the hundreds of millions as far as the user base now. So many different platforms have a native Teams integration. So Dynamics 365, of course, we're big on that here, has a Teams integration where you can instantly go to customer records or attach customer records into Teams chats, I should say. Also, there are different third-party platforms like Trello or Poly that, if you have another project management platform or another customer service platform that likely already has a Teams app. So if you were to click the apps button inside of Teams, I would bet that you're probably already using some of the third parties that have a Teams app, or something like Power BI. If you want to instantly put those Power BI reports inside of Teams or channels, so your accounting team can instantly check their most important reports without ever leaving Teams. That is a free add-in to Teams. So again, Teams is available in your app store as a mobile app, but Teams also has its own app store for native Microsoft apps, third-party apps, and even custom apps that your organization can build. So if you've never looked at that, if you've never added those third parties into Teams, especially something like Dynamics or SharePoint or Power BI, those are a great place to start. But likely something like Microsoft Project or Tasks and Planner or Microsoft Viva probably has an app that you're already using and didn't know you could slipstream it into Teams. So
Well, and
very
the
good.
other thing is, especially for like road warriors, people that are constantly out, people that are going to be mostly mobile all the time, the nice
Mhm.
thing is that the user experience from mobile to the desktop app is so close that a lot
Mhm.
of these applications can be ran in the mobile app itself. This way, it's really a hub for whatever those road warriors need to do. So you can put Power Apps, like you said, Power BI, and it's still accessible through that mobile app. So you never have to really technically leave it.
Exactly, and that's the whole goal of using Teams as your go-to collaboration platform is you are reducing clicks and application switching on your desktop, but also your phone, where it's very important to not
Yeah.
have to go to 6 different apps to pull up a financial report or to see a D365 customer record. You can have it all built into Teams. Why not? It's just a few less clicks or thumb movements you have to do. So, yes, definitely check out those applications. Those are generally free to install, especially if you already own the platform of that application. There's no reason not to add it to Teams. So the future, we've all heard about generative AI and chat GPT. It's on everyone's mind. You probably have already been in a session on it today, but just be aware that Copilot is coming very, very soon for Microsoft Teams. Even though Teams is already a great time saver in and of itself, Copilot is aiming to make Teams even more efficient with things like scheduling meetings for you, giving you a report on meetings content, and answering questions on how to do some of the things we talked about in Teams. So, for example, you could tell Copilot to schedule a recurring meeting every Thursday at 11 for your operations team. You could ask it for a summary of action items from your last meeting, or you could ask it, how do I place a call to a international number inside of Teams, and it could help you with that. So just how you can ask ChatGPT or some of the other platforms how to do things. The goal of Copilot is to be able to ask it how to do different tasks in Microsoft 365, and it can essentially serve as your own virtual assistant inside of the Teams platform. So be on the lookout of more from that or from Aspire and some of our upcoming posts, and we're all eager to see how Copilot can make Teams even better. All right, Tommy, over to you for our SharePoint
All
portion.
right. I think you still have to drive since I don't have the controls
No
on my side.
problem.
But, all right. So, yeah, so we're going to be going over SharePoint. And the first place that I like to start, especially understanding how to get the most out of your M365 Office 365 subscription, is understanding how Microsoft wants you to store and share documents. So this is the best way that I usually kind of describe it is that your OneDrive is for you, maybe another person to store the files that you're currently working in. You know, it's a one-on-one relationship. Then we talk about Microsoft Teams, John's favorite subject and one of my favorite subjects. This is great for collaboration. The example that I give when I start explaining this to end users is, if you're working on HR documents, while you're working on them, you're collaborating, you're making your changes to your HR documents. You work with them in teams. A couple of reasons. A, it's secure. The only people that have access to it are the people that are in that group, and you can easily find out who has access to it by just hovering over the members icon. And then on top of that, it creates a SharePoint site to host all this information. Now, the SharePoint site is technically separate from your traditional SharePoint site for the whole company. So then we have, when it's ready for prime time, when it's ready for public consumption, we migrate it over to SharePoint. SharePoint is for companies or organizations to share content with a large group of people. Everything from the entire organization to departments, all the way up to external users. We use it here at Velosio to share information with our clients. Each one of our clients get their own SharePoint site where they can upload and share documents. They can see timelines on projects, and the people that are working on those projects, they can communicate with them directly through that SharePoint site, either by clicking on their face and then selecting to communicate via Teams or through email. So that's kind of how we look at the storage and sharing and collaborations of files. And this is really the most efficient way and get the biggest bang out of your storage buck in M365 and Microsoft. So next one.
And before we go,
Okay.
I'll run a couple scenarios past you and see if it rings true. I find that a lot of clients fall into two buckets: those that are already using Teams but don't know that actually means that they're using SharePoint, and those that are already using SharePoint but don't know that it integrates with Teams. So have you found that to be true for you as well?
So I'm so happy you brought that up because it was something that I was thinking about adding to this is a lot of our clients don't know they have SharePoint, let
Yeah,
alone that they know how that they have Teams. We as consultants here, we have such a wide breadth of knowledge across the Microsoft platform that a lot of times we're actually teaching our end users what they get with their subscriptions to Teams, Office, Dynamics. One of the things that Microsoft used to tell me was we would be happy if people use 12% of our software.
yeah,
Um, and what we do is we wind up teaching a lot of our clients that they have a SharePoint site. They just thought it was some website that they dumped files on. Same thing with Teams. They're like, oh, we just thought this was back and forth chat. That's all it was used for. And a lot of times we actually wind up getting rid of a lot of redundant services that cost our clients even more money by telling them, hey, it came with your Microsoft subscription. You're paying for a product that you already have. So yeah, that's a prime example is a lot of people don't understand. You can communicate with Teams to the point where if you create a team SharePoint site and you go directly to that site as a little Teams icon up on it, you double click on it and it opens up the chat for you. So it's really, really great on collaboration, not only from a SharePoint side, but also just a straight team side.
exactly.
So when I start having these conversations around SharePoint, what we like to do is show them what kind of is like a hub and spoke. So welcome to the intranet, as I like to call it. So generally you want to create a landing page that is intuitive for your end user to use. I cannot tell you how many times I start having these conversations with clients and we start talking about like, well, this person requests information from me all the time. I need to send this report. I have to share this document. I have to send over this onboarding process. And it takes up a lot of our end users' times to be sharing this document via email, via Teams. Meanwhile, we can create a intuitive landing page with all the links to all the departments, all the information that you need to. You can allow internal and external users to share documents. This is a big deal. I mean, how many times does somebody send a PDF or an Excel spreadsheet to one team member and not the rest of the team members that need it? And then you're going back and forth. You're looking at different versions of documents. This is why we use it on our side for clients. This way, there's one center of truth to work with your team, their customers' team, and whoever else they want to collaborate with. And of course, there's also things that you can embed with it. So a lot of people don't know that you can embed news feeds in there. You can embed your Twitter feed. So if you're a marketing department and you want to share what you're tweeting out to your customers and you want other people to retweet, instead of going ahead and doing all this stuff and sending out email blasts, you can have people just go directly to your marketing site, look at that Twitter account and retweet those tweets. You can inject a Power BI videos, all that stuff, and it's secure. It's encrypted. You can put authentication methods behind SharePoint to keep those files safe.
And if you're thinking, we have a pretty good customer-facing website. We spend a lot of time and money on this, but we don't have much of an internal site. People are always emailing us asking where are our instructions for our ADP payment portal? How do we know about our insurance options at the company? What are our company holidays? Things like that. When's the next company meeting? If you don't have a good internal site that's answering those questions, chances are your HR or accounting team is sending a lot of repetitive emails. So having a good internet site is a great way to get rid of some of those frequently asked questions that are coming via email or chat, and put it in a safe, secure, internal-facing site that shows that you care about your employees as much as you care about your customers having a good website to refer to.
I'll tell you something, and it's funny. I've been in SharePoint for more years than I'd like to count. But one of the things is especially now with M365, is that it's a lot easier to manage. It's a lot easier. It's a lot more intuitive to create really in-depth, engaging pages. And the amount of wow moments I get from HR, from IT, from different parts of different organizations. Are we back?
Yep, we're back. Sorry, I just lost you for
Okay.
just a moment
Yeah,
there.
yeah. All right. Well, somebody's got an edit point, so
Yeah.
whoever's editing at 29 minutes, you're gonna have to cut that. All right. So now this goes a little bit more in depth about the hub and let me give you an edit point. Sorry. So this goes over a little bit more of the hub and spoke kind of architecture that we look for. For instance, we have our main landing page. We have the ability to have external content in there for people to access externally. You can create sites for HR, for accounting, all your different departments, so people can go ahead and find that information quickly. You can create a great landing page. So this way, everything's right up in front. It's really easy for people to find the information quickly that they need. And I know, and I'm going to go into this a little bit with Copilot, that's going to even add and enhance the ability that you can go ahead and add to SharePoint. Like say, for instance, it's going to help with search and indexing of information. It's going to be able to help with creating these sites and then embedding information into these sites. And then you can branch off to different areas. You can embed chats, you can embed feeds, you can embed video content and streaming. So, I mean, it really, that hub and spoke really makes it easy for people to find the information that they need.
And that's so crucial because as we add more and more information to our SharePoint or to our teams, that's great. But if you can't find it efficiently, it's just digital clutter. So,
That
between Copilot and having a well-architected site, having fewer clicks to get to that information or an easy way to search it, is so important because that stuff is no good if people can't find it.
one of the key things, and thank you for once again, man, thank you for bringing that up. One of the key complaints that I get about SharePoint that people have either haven't really implemented yet or have worked in previous organizations is yeah, I mean the site looked great and all that stuff, but I wasn't able to find anything. None of it was intuitive. So we really work not only on the back end and the storage and the document retention policies and all the technical stuff, but we work a lot on the user experience, which a lot of people forget when they start building out these SharePoint is no one's going to use it if it's a cluttered mess. So the more that you have it more organized, the more intuitive, the more user experience that you have in it, the more you're going to get out of your SharePoint experience. Now, another way that you can speed up any process is SharePoint and Power Automate. Power Automate, if anybody's not familiar, is part of Microsoft's Power Platform. It's an automation system. Now, just a heads up, anything that is Power Platform is highly addictive. You never build one Power Automate, you never build one Power BI, and you never build one Power App. Usually you start growing in that environment. But the nice thing is that SharePoint can integrate directly into Power Automate through flows. So if you have an issue where you have this redundant policy, like all right, PTO for example, you have to go ahead and get these emails and approve PTOs all the time, and it takes up a good chunk of your time. You can automate a lot of those systems. So somebody can fill out a PTO form. If it needs approval, it can go through an approval process. You can approve or deny. You can select who approves that process, and then you can execute even more tasks beyond that. So you can have it so it automatically blocks off that time off that end user or work person's calendar. You can go ahead and send out email notifications automatically to their team members to notify them that, hey, just so you know, John's going to be out next week. Or you can go ahead and deny it and add some comments, and that can be emailed over to your coworker, to your team member to say, hey, listen, you requested too much time off, not enough time. And then you can also integrate that into, like, say, for instance, if you're using ADP that calculates their time off, you can pull that into SharePoint through Power Automate and say, hey, listen, you're going past your allotted time. Or it can automatically check calendar and say, all right, we're fully staffed. This person is requested. They have the time off. Just automatically approve it. So you can go ahead and build a lot of these Power Automate into SharePoint. I've done it for PTO. I've done it for onboarding of new employees where it can integrate into Active Directory, set up passwords, email, set up the correct groups and security groups that that person needs to be a member of, send them any documentation that they need and direct the links into SharePoint. It can get really, really technical, but it saves a ridiculous amount of time. I've put this in and it has really, really sped up a lot of processes for different organizations.
And you mentioned saving time, but it can also save quite a bit of money. I've seen a lot of organizations paying for third-party platforms just to do things like PTO or simple document approvals, especially if you just kind of want some workflow to do kind of the business basics like that. There's no reason not to use Power Automate. I've set up some for us internally, and even the very first time I tried it, I was shocked at how much I was able to get done with that first day. I was able to build a working document capture and email flow with some dynamic fields the very first time I took this out for a spin. So even if you aren't exactly a DIY person, it's the kind of thing we can make a lot of progress on in a short amount of time here at Velosio, and hopefully eliminate you needing to pay for multiple third-party systems to do things that M365 can do natively.
And once Copilot rolls out for Power Automate in SharePoint, I've seen right now, I would consider it at a just born, not even crawling stage, and it's incredible what it can do now. In the future, you will be able to say, I want to create a form for PTO, this approval process, check this calendar. If it's good, do this. And it will be able to do that. So, and it's just going to make it a lot easier. You're going to spend less time doing these redundant, drive you nuts tasks, which I am a huge fan of. If I can get rid of all my redundant, ridiculous tasks that I have to do, it will save me time and frustration, because it also gets rid of the human element where something can get messed up. Somebody can fill out a form incorrectly. Somebody can send, an email out to the wrong person. That has happened. So this saves a lot of frustration, time, and money at the end of the day.
Absolutely. So folks, if this has piqued your interest, if you've kind of realized we're not using Teams to its fullest potential or SharePoint to its fullest potential, or maybe we're kind of new to both platforms and need some help getting on our feet, please do let us know. This kind of stuff gets us excited in the morning, so we'll be happy to help you and happy to explain some of these things in more depth.
And even if you just want to make your SharePoint pretty, feel free to contact me. I love design and I can talk about it all day. And we're always here to help. And yeah,